Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you, dear viewers. Welcome to tonight's live online lecture organized by the UK Talim or Education Department. As per our tradition, we will start with the recitation of the Holy Quran. If I could please request Tahir Sahib to recite a portion. Jazakallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. I've just recited verse 22 from chapter 30 of the Holy Quran. The English translation of this verse is as follows. Of his signs is that he has created wives for you from among yourselves, that you may find peace of mind in them, and he has put love and tenderness between you. In that surely are signs for a people who reflect.
Jazakumullah, Tariq Sahib. This evening we have the pleasure of having with us Kalim Tahir Sahib, who is currently serving as one of the national secretaries in the Rishta Nata or Matrimonial Affairs Department of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Association UK. Previously, during his time in Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya and later with the National Waqf and Old team, Kalim Sahib has served in many capacities in which he has worked directly with the community's youth. As Secretary Rishta Nata, he continues to engage regularly with parents and young members of the Jamaat during visits as well as at various national events. Therefore, he has a good grasp of a number of challenges faced by young people today, particularly in the area of today's topic. The subject of marriage is especially pertinent in the present period of changing social attitudes to relationships and family life. The popularity of dating websites indicates that the quest for a perfect life partner remains a high priority for many. However, the rate of successful marriages appears to be declining fast. Does this mean that marriage is no longer relevant today? Or does the Islamic model of establishing a loving and lasting relationship between spouses provide solutions to marital and indeed other problems faced in the modern world? These are among the key issues Kalim Sahib will be addressing tonight. As always, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. These will be put to Kalim Sahib on your behalf in the last 15 minutes. Please type your questions into the live chat and kindly ensure that they are relevant to tonight's topic. So without further ado, I invite Kalim Tahir Sahib to deliver tonight's lecture. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah Waqar Sahib. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. I would like to start by thanking Talim Department for providing their platform for discussing this very important topic, marriage in the 21st century. Marriages tend to be a collage of traditions and cultures. This is what makes them a happy occasion. However, whenever the culture and traditions collide, it creates a strain on relationships. And this phenomenon is neither new nor specific to our current times. As one of the serving national secretaries in the Rishta Nata department, I get a unique opportunity to hear, view, and understand some of these challenges facing our Jamaat members here in the UK. And in today's presentation, as Waqar Sahib has mentioned, I aim to share some of my observations with you and hopefully leave you with some thoughts on potential root causes and solutions to these issues. While I was thinking about constructing my presentation, I recalled a phrase which I'm sure many of you are very familiar with. It is, marriage is a marathon and not a sprint. Well, I don't know who said it, but more I pondered over this, more I became impressed with the sagacity of the statement. So, in terms of my agenda, I'm going to use this analogy to cover my subject matter. Now, all key decisions in life start with a purpose. And I would go through the purpose of why even bother signing up to this marathon. Then, preparations are really important, and what routine to go through on the day, and how to make a good start. And finally, how to make it a memorable run and not a miserable experience for yourself. So these are the areas which I would be touching upon. However, I do not wish to be talking for next 35 to 40 minutes. I do want to engage with the audience today. And for that, I would like you to open up an additional browsing window on your laptop, tablet, or smartphone and go to a website called www.slido.com. I believe a link is also provided on YouTube website as well. Once you go to this web page where it says enter event code, if you can kindly enter M21C as a code and then just join this event. I would come to this website and ask some polling questions a few times during my presentation. And I would like to gauge the audience and your views on certain subject matters. So with that, I think hopefully everybody would have had some time to go to this website, slido.com, and enter the event code M21C, and then we'll come back to it. Okay. The sanctity and importance of marriage has been emphasized in Islam more than any other faith or any man-made law. First of all, celibacy in Islam is not permitted. The Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that marriage is my way, and the one who does not marry is not of us. And the verses which were recited before you at the start also contain or lay out some of the purposes and objectives of marriage. For example, first and foremost, it mentions peace of mind. Now, there is some guidance for us that anything in matters relating to marriage, if they would lead to disturbing peace of mind or peace of life, then surely we are doing something wrong. We should take a step back in light of this Quranic injunction or guidance from Allah and see what needs to be corrected. The second objective mentioned is creating love. And we'll come back to this. It's quite interesting. A lot of our youngsters think that they want to consider love marriage, and Islam doesn't mention love in relation to marriage. It absolutely does. And the other very important purpose is that of companionship. Now, I was actually looking at one of the research which says that in Japan, for example, 30% of suicides are committed purely because of loneliness. And also, closer to the home or in Western world or world at large today, we see there are some huge issues related to mental health. It's becoming a growing problem all around the world. And a lot of that is because of that loneliness. Then obviously guarding our chastity is helped by marriage. And last but not the least, it is a source of completing our faith, because Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that when a man or woman is married, he has fulfilled half of his religion. Now, this is where I want you to take a pause and think about this advice from Holy Prophet ﷺ. Does anyone in today's audience believe that offering less than 5 obligatory prayers, or fasting only for a part of the Ramadan, or reciting only half of kalama, or offering only some elements of Hajj would be an acceptable practice? I'm sure your unanimous answer would be no, it would not be acceptable. And all of those elements help us complete our faith. So, similarly, in the light of this advice from Holy Prophet ﷺ, marriage is extremely important for completing our faith. Now, this is the point where I would like everyone to go to the website which I'd mentioned, and I am going to pose the first question. And this is in relation to preparations, preparing for marriage. So just give me a moment and I will open up this web page and reveal my first polling question for you. Okay. Try it again. I see people are already responding to this. Okay, good. So the question I actually want to pose, when should one start preparing to get married? Right? So there are 5 choices here: in your early 20s, when one feels ready to take this responsibility, late teenage years, right from the childhood, or early teens. So at the moment, we're getting a live poll here. 36 people have responded. I hope that there are more participants in this lecture, and I know that is the fact. So majority at the moment, almost a third, believe that it should be early 20s, and then almost a quarter believe it should be either late teens or when one feels ready to take the responsibility. Okay. I think responses have stopped coming. So let's go back. Interesting. So let's see. I think it's, in let me just open my slide once again so that I can start again. Sorry, it's a little bit fiddly. Okay, so the preparations, in reality, there are a number of key steps in one's preparation for getting married. Just as the best athletes start from a very young age, Islam actually proposes an early start. And in fact, Islam says preparations should begin with prayers. And you'll be surprised if I tell you that this is one of the earliest prayers which have been made obligatory for a Muslim child, male or female, to do on a daily basis. But I'm sure once I tell you the prayer, then you wouldn't be surprised at all. In fact, this is right at the end of our daily prayers. We offer a prayer that Rabbi Jalni Mukima Salati wa min zurriyati, and that is, oh Allah, establish me on prayers and that of my progeny. Now, how are you going to get the righteous progeny? It's not possible without having a good or righteous wife. So Islam actually is teaching us to start preparing from a very young age. From the age of 7, in fact, we start preparing through prayers for finding a good spouse. And I believe it is on the same reasons Hazrat Amma Jan used to give one advice to people, that we should start asking our children to pray for a good spouse and a happy marriage from the age of 10. I would like to share anecdote of a Nawab from Delhi. He says once his daughter was born, there was one prayer he used to pray in every single one of his prayers. And he never missed that prayer in any of his namaz or salat. And the prayer was that, "Oh Allah, marry this daughter of mine to the person who is most agreeable in your sight." So this daughter grew older and then became wife of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. So of course, this daughter was Hazrat Sayyida Nusrat Jahan Begum Sahiba, Hazrat Amma Jan Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha, the beloved wife of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, about whom one of his sons have said that they were like, two souls in one body. And the person, the Nawab, was her father, Hazrat Mir Nasir Nawab Sahib, Razillahu Ta'ala anhu. And this just goes to show the power of prayers in this respect and mustn't be underestimated. The next item in terms of preparations for getting married is the role model of parents. It is absolutely critical. There is a role of father who needs to watch his conduct with his wife and children and need to show by himself helping out in household chores. This is the practice of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and promised Messiah Islam as well. So there is nothing in our nikah nama or marriage contract which says, wife has to perform, or only the wife has to perform all the household chores. Because this practical demonstration of a balanced approach is critical. It has a huge effect on children. They learn from their parents. Similarly, mothers also have a role. They need to look after themselves, of course, but not at the expense of fulfilling their duties towards their families. So, this is where children who see, their parents not living a harmonious life, they very often, I've noticed in my personal experience, they get put off marriages itself because it deeply affects them psychologically. And such children either delay their marriage to the extent where it becomes difficult for them to find a suitable match, or they do not marry at all. Secondly, inculcating habit of living a disciplined life from birth, both for boys and girls, is equally important. And they only learn this by watching their parents. It doesn't come by giving this guidance to them at a later stage in life. They pick it up from their parents. And it is often observed that those children who grow up in families, where this discipline is followed, um, they acquire much better life skills. And it also helps them in their married lives. I thought I'll share an interesting anecdote. I was once told by one of my bosses at work that they have a rule in their household that if wife cooks the food or meal in the evening, if she prepares the meal in the evening, then he does the tidy up afterwards. And if he is cooking the meal, his wife actually does the tidy up. They'd figured out this way of helping each other um, in running the daily household chores, and as a result, they had a very good, happy life, married life. Um, at this point, let's go back to Slido.com, and I am going to ask the next two polling questions. So let me go there. Okay. So the question is that in the UK, the average age for male for getting married is 33 years. And this is just for the whole country. What is the right age in your opinion? What is the right age for getting married for boys? You can type in the number, any number, which would come up here, and you'll see the result on your screen. Yeah. Okay, somebody's expecting a long life. I hope this is not you telling us you want to put off marriage for a very long time. Okay. We're starting to see, a range here between, in sensible range from 18 years to, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so let's stop it here. Interesting. Let me ask the same question about girls' age. So in the UK, again, average age of first marriage amongst females is 32 years. What is the right age for women, in your opinion? Again, you can just type in the numbers. Okay, so again, some people think early, 23 and 21 is most popular number that is being entered at the moment. Good. Thank you very much for this input. Interesting. So from what I see here, the most popular age for girls was 23, and for boys, it was 25. But in terms of range, I would say boys were somewhere 25 to 27, and for girls, I would say majority are saying it's somewhere between 21 and 20, from 20 to 23. Good. Jazakallah. Thank you very much. Let me just go back to my presentation, then we'll continue with this. Okay. Okay. I mean, in my view, I think there's a separate age of maturity for everyone. Some girls feel ready at the age of 18 to 19. Others want to complete their education and further education. Some boys come to me at the age of 28 and they still tell me they do not feel ready as they're still working through their career ladder. I don't think there is a definitive answer for this. But there is one thing definitive. That is, if you actually wait to achieve everything in your life, you might actually miss the boat, or the ship may sail in terms of finding a good spouse. There is one analysis which I've conducted in Rishta Nata department. I actually asked all the boys over the age of 30, and I didn't ask, I actually looked at their profiles. What is the most common age group that they're asking for in terms of girls they would be interested in? And the answer came predominantly 24 to 27 years of age. So I actually went through all the profiles of girls in that age range, 24 to 27 years, and I checked that what age group they would consider um, for a proposal. And what I found and learned was very, very interesting, and I'll share with you. 50% of those girls in that age range, which, according to your input as well, is somewhere, in the most or in the best marriageable age for girl. 50% of those girls said anybody who is, or any boy who is over 30 years of age is too old for them. And 75% of girls in that age group, they weren't willing to consider anybody or any boy who had reached the age of 32. So boys may think they're young, but girls certainly didn't agree with them. And if anybody got to age of 34, they would be left with only 5% of the pool who would even be willing to consider them. So I can't tell you, exactly what is the right age to get married, but what I can tell you when it is too late. So do whatever you do, don't leave it till too late. The next, in terms of preparations, I want to focus a little bit on what is the best way of finding a good proposal. There are a lot of different views there. Some boys feel that they need to fall in love with a girl before they would even consider getting married with her. This is obviously the influence of the society around us, but it is a growing view both in boys and girls. They tell me when speaking with them that they're looking for a spark, and this is why when they look at a photograph, if they don't feel extremely attracted to the individual, they turn it down quite quickly. And this is not only on boys' side, this is also same is true with many of the girls as well, right? So I'm not talking about any blames here. I'm just talking about the way of thinking that currently exists. Now, one thing I would like to highlight here. You see, human beings make their decisions on three bases. It is either based on reason or rationale, or experience, or it can be impulsive or and based on emotions. This is what psychologists tell us. These are the three ways of making a decision. Now, love marriage is very much an impulsive and emotive decision. And impulsive and emotive decisions do not always tend to be the most, solid. They tend to be shallow and brittle. So, love marriage, therefore, is certainly not a good decision making mechanism for making one of the most important decisions in life. The opposite extreme to love marriage is what we sometimes notice is a forced marriage, where parents or elder tell their child to marry someone that they are proposing, and they have no say in that. And that isn't right either. Islam actually offers us a third way, which is that of arranged marriage. And in arranged marriage, a proposal is made by those who are experienced, who know you, um, and you also consider somebody based on their qualities, whether you would have a happy life with that individual. You pray for it, and then if your heart is still content, you move ahead. Islam actually permits boys to see girls, because I again sometimes come across this scenario where parents are reluctant to let boys see their daughters. It's not very common, but I do come across this scenario time to time. And that then results in, a rishta not progressing further. Holy Prophet, there is a tradition. Um, According to that, there was a boy um, who was proposed a girl, and then he requested the girl's father that he would like to see her. And Arabs in those days, they also had the sense of honor, and this girl's father didn't want to agree to that request from the boy. So the boy approached Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who allowed him to go and see the girl. So he went to the girl's house, but father was still insistent that he wouldn't let him see her. But girl who was listening to this conversation, and when she learned that Holy Prophet ﷺ had sent the boy, she actually made herself appear from behind the curtains and said to the boy, "You can have a look at me. If Holy Prophet ﷺ has said this, then I, am perfectly happy for you to look at me." But the boy also immediately lowered his gaze and said, "I do not need to look at you anymore. Um, I, I, um, I am, impressed by your attitude here." And then he married this girl without seeing her physically in advance. So the point of this anecdote is that Islam actually permits it. In fact, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that you should actually see the girl before getting married, because it creates love and affection in your heart. So arranged marriage is a happy medium. It is not purely based on emotion. It does involve looking at compatibility. It does involve taking decision and not decision, but input from those who are experienced in these matters. The decision is always with the boy and the girl, and it helps you reach that rational decision uh, based on some grounded assessment. Somebody once said to me, or mentioned to me, this comparison between love marriage and arranged marriages in a very interesting way. He said, love marriage is very much about marrying the woman that one loves, and arranged marriage is about loving the woman one marries. And I think it's very apt. Normally, in defense of, you know, um, in their defense, what I tend to hear is, for that reason, because love, at first sight, or getting a spark from photograph, or getting feelings for the other person, it's not possible that you can get full understanding. Um, People request that they are able to see the girl on a number of times. So houses are visited a number of times, and request is made that boy and girl sit together and speak with each other on numerous occasions before a final decision is made. And sometimes there are even requests made that boy and the girl should be allowed to go out and have a coffee. And there's nothing wrong, they can just have a coffee, and and they can get to know each other a little bit more. This is essentially dating. In this respect, I would just like to highlight that Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has and Islam has strongly forbidden from such practices, because Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that when there's a boy and girl on their own, the third one with them is Satan. And Satan can definitely play with emotions. Secondly, there is no proof that this is a successful way of finding a suitable match. because in the society where we live, those marriages happen after boy and girl have lived together for many, many months, actually, many years. They cohabitate, um, but still 55% of the marriages they break down. They break down within first 5 years or for first 5 to 10 years. So, looking at the evidence around us, you cannot understand a person just by looking at it or by meeting them for a few times. I come across, many people who tell me that they weren't even able to judge their siblings sometimes on certain occasions. So how is it possible that if you're going out to meet some other person, that you would be able to judge their character and their suitability for marriage just through a couple of meetings? So these are some things and thoughts which I'm leaving you to ponder over. The best way for finding a good proposal, according to the best guides, the best coaches that we can think of, um, let's have a look what they have advised us. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that when a man looks for a woman, he looks for four things: wealth, family status, beauty, or faith. And he has advised, his advice is that always give precedence to their religion and faith, because otherwise, that is what would make you a winner. The promised Messiah ﷺ has said that the relationship between husband and wife should be as between two sincere and close friends. So this statement is full of wisdom. What promised Messiah ﷺ is telling us that really we need to find a friend. We need to be looking for a friend. And if you think about it, the person you marry is the individual you'll be spending most time in your life with them, right? That is one individual who would give you the most amount of company. And that is where if you end up choosing somebody who is not your best friend, you're going to have a miserable life. And this is where, again, I ask you to have a pause. This is not just a religious viewpoint. If I ask you to think about your best friend in life that you've already made, just think of the name in your head. Then ask yourself, are they your best friend because of their wealth, because of their family status, because of their beauty, or because of their values? And that would tell you that for choosing best friends, what criteria works the best. Therefore, please do not use a different criteria for selecting somebody who needs to be your best friend and you're going to be spending the most amount of time with him or her. Okay, the final step in terms of preparation for this marathon, um, it all began with prayers and it all ends with prayers. And this is where istikhara prayer has been stressed upon. Istikhara prayer is important. Um, as I've said, we just don't know, when looking for a rishta, what the other person would be like. There is this big unknown. And the only being who knows about whether this proposal is good for us and would be full of blessing for us is Allah. So we need to turn to Him. And istikhara is not just for marriage, it is for any matter that has an element of unknown. That is where istikhara prayer is offered. And I strongly recommend anyone who is looking for rishta, once you find a good proposal, that is when we need to turn to Allah and ask for Allah's guidance. In this regard, there is one other point I quickly wish to mention is I have noticed there is this habit of turning to certain individuals or certain aunties because there is a common belief that they're able to get a very quick response um, in a very quick response to the istikhara prayers. I'm not judging any individual, but I request some caution in this respect. It is best that istikhara prayer is offered by the boy and the girl who are praying for themselves. There's no one who can pray harder or with more sincerity than you yourself. Um, Obviously, ask other peoples to, help with prayers in your decision making, but istikhara prayer is best offered by the two individuals involved in this decision making. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave the preparations, to here. I'm sure there are many more aspects that we could discuss, but in the interest of time, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to the day itself. And just as all good athletes they follow a certain routine on the day to make sure that they are, best prepared for the occasion. There is a routine that we should also consider to follow. Unfortunately, sometimes we see that there is a lot of extravagance and almost to the extent of a show off in our ceremonies. Um, our weddings involve many ceremonies which run over many days, where many meals are offered. And also lately there have been some traditions of giving expensive wedding gifts or demanding some expensive wedding gifts. Um, right? And I'm unfortunately aware of certain instances where a proposal broke down simply because a ring of certain value wasn't offered to the girl. So these are the things, these are the customs which have no place in Islam. In Islam, in fact, the Holy Prophet ﷺ has said that blessed or the best marriage is the one which comes about with ease and entails no hardship for either of the families. And it must not entail too heavy a burden of expenses. So this is a beautiful guidance for us to keep our ceremonies, our celebrations simple. There is, however, a an injunction of haq meher, which a boy must pay to the girl, and that haq meher should be of a reasonable amount. In Jamaat, we often, use this guidance from our khulafa that haq meher, a good haq meher, should be 6 months to 12 months income of a boy that should be set in haq meher. So I think that's some very good guidance. Okay, once the marriage has taken place, we make a start to life, and this is essentially where two people coming from two different families, two different backgrounds, and each family has its own culture as well. So therefore, from two different cultures coming together. And even on a road where traffic is merging from two lanes, there's always a sign of caution. So here it's a merging of two different individuals, and therefore some caution should be exercised. Compromises, are required throughout married life, because nobody is going to be able to, um, fulfill all the expectations of the other person. There'll always be shortfalls here and there, and those needs to be forgiven and overlooked, and an effort needs to be made to make each other happy. And just the way in this traffic analogy, or using this traffic analogy, don't be influenced from those standing beyond you and flashing or honking from behind you. Don't let other people interfere. Resolve any differences, as I've said, through compromise, through love, through affection, um, between the boy and the girl. Another important fact to keep in mind, or advice to keep in mind, is it's really good when somebody focuses on their obligation and not on their expectations. Because whenever somebody has expectations, nobody is perfect. The other person is bound to fall short of those expectations somewhere. And then such a situation would disappoint the person who is carrying those expectations. Therefore, it is best not to carry expectations, but purely focus on our obligations in our role, either as a husband or a wife. Hazrat Tamajan has given a beautiful advice in this regard, and I want to share it with you. She said that first the wife has to sacrifice herself, and this in turn wins over the husband forever, right? In Urdu, it sounds even better. Um, Hazrat Tamajan has said that पहले बीवी को कुर्बान होना पड़ता है अपने मियाँ पर, और उसके बाद मियाँ सारी उम्र के लिए गुलाम बन जाता है. So this is a beautiful advice, very simple but very effective, that we should pay heed to and learn from. So I'm coming to the end now. I want to leave some time for Q&A. So I'm going to quickly wrap up. So how can we make our run memorable one? Well, treating each other with kindness. That's one of the guidance in the verse that was recited at the beginning, that treat each other with kindness, with mercy. Mercy actually automatically involves forgiving each other, and that is the guidance we should follow. We need to be there for each other. There will be ups and there'll be downs in married life. It's part of life. But important thing is that whenever there are ups and downs, we feel that husband and wife, they're always there for each other. And just do not give up, right? You've started, go all the way. And if you follow, these guidance in terms of preparation to getting married, for getting married, and then how to make a good start and how to support each other throughout this journey, I'm sure those who follow, there are many examples before us which show us that it really turns or it really provides us a heaven on the earth in our life. So may Allah enable all of us to have such a happy life. And with that, I thank everyone again for their time and for listening to me. And we can open up for Q&A.
Jazakumullah, Kalim Sahib. We've been absolutely flooded with questions, as I'm sure you might have anticipated. And I'll do my best to capture as many of them and combine them where appropriate. The questions range from questions about practicalities, issues of culture, and also some technical and administrative questions, which we have time to go over as well. The first question or questions come from Sophie Anwar, and Amr Secondary. So Sophie firstly asks, what advice can you give to those parents who want their children to get married, but the children say they're not ready for the commitment? Some young people are keen to get married, but they get very apprehensive, and they get cold feet often in the final stages of making a decision. And as a follow-on question to that, Amir Sahib asks, how does one get their kids married, especially if they're studying? And also there's a concern, I think he raises, that many girls' families will not consider giving their daughter away to a boy who is still a student.
Sure. I think there are a number of questions actually in there. Some I've already touched upon briefly. You're never going to be 100% comfortable. You're always going to have cold feet at the end if you're making the decision purely on your own logic and rationale. This is where I think you need to put some trust in your parents, first of all. They actually know you. Give them the credit they deserve. Most often, parents actually know their children better than children know themselves. They've seen you grow up. They know what you like, what you dislike, what would please you, what would make you unhappy, right? So take the guidance on board. The second thing, as I said, prayer is absolutely paramount. Nobody ever knows what is right and wrong for them. And you wouldn't know until afterwards, except Allah. So Allah, if you turn to Allah, He can give you that, peace um, about your decision, and then you can proceed with your decision. What I've mentioned or tried to present, it is not advisable to leave marriages till too late. And I unfortunately come across many of those cases where perfectly good rishtas or proposals were turned down either because there was this inability to make a decision, or for certain reasons those were rejected. And then unfortunately, once a certain age passes, and I've given you some indication based on data there that I have in Rishta Nata department, it becomes very difficult to find suitable proposals. So don't leave it till too late. Make a decision, as I've said, by taking input from parents and praying to Allah. And of course, giving sadaqah is a part of it. Then the second question, Vakarsa, was around what about children who are studying. I think that's also a very current topic and issue. And this is particularly relevant to girls. I very often come across cases where girls, our girls, mashallah, in the UK are very good in studies, and they want to continue with their education because of how well they're doing in their respective fields. However, Huzur Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasrul Aziz has given us some very beautiful guidance in many of his addresses. And the one that springs to my mind is the address at Canada Jalsa Salana in 2016. Huzur, addressing this particular issue, advised girls that, look, education is good. It's very good. Nobody's stopping you. But what is even more important for an Ahmadi girl is that they get married and they produce servants of Allah, because that's what we need in this time. So, yes, I think in the light of this, my guidance is, my advice is, do not delay beyond certain age because you want to continue with your education. There are many, many examples where girls who were studying, they got married, they were able to complete their education with the right support from their husbands, and they did very well, both in their family life, married life, and in worldly manners. So it shouldn't be used as an excuse from getting married.
So next question, Kalim Saab, is from Imran Masood regarding culture. He states that in our culture, presumably Asian culture, we are not very tolerant of imperfections, health issues, level of education, earning, etc. Whereas the wider British population, he states, are more tolerant and will accept people of different backgrounds. How can we instill more tolerance within our culture?
I think it's a great observation, and thank you for bringing it up. I also notice in Rishta Nata department on daily basis that this particular issue results in rejecting perfectly reasonable proposals on a daily basis, unfortunately. Actually, it's a clash of different cultures here. The issue is that our youngsters do not necessarily always have a huge set of demands. Some demands come from parents, and other demands come from boy and the girl. And unfortunately, not enough discussion and conversation taking place within the families to agree what are the 2 or 3 priorities. Instead, families are choosing to get all the boxes ticked, which make it very, very difficult for them to find a suitable rishta. My humble request and advice is do not fall in this trap. Please agree on your top 2 or 3 priorities. Be honest on what those priorities are, and whatever they are, they're fine. But then on those 2 or 3 priorities, make a selection and be flexible about everything else. Because those who are inflexible, those families unfortunately run into issues where their children get too old and they find it almost impossible to find suitable rishtas thereafter.
Jazakallah. Kalim Saab, there's also a number of questions in relation to the actual work of the Rishta Nata department and how to benefit from your service, and also how to get in touch with you. There's one question from Rabia Shah Sahiba who says, other than facilitating, what active steps are the Rishta Nata department taking to help those men and women who are A, age, and B, divorced with children in order to get married again? It's also a similar question to another question, I think it was Adila Sahiba, I believe it was, who asks about why the Jamaat does not promote remarriage more than it does. That's a claim. And also there are some questions in relation to difficulties getting through to the department or concerns about the pace of response from a facilitator. Has COVID-19 affected this as offices have been shut? So if you're maybe able to address some of those concerns and maybe advise how members can get in touch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jazakallah for all those questions. So first of all, let me start by explaining how Rishta Nata department works. First of all, there are 4 national secretaries who have been appointed by Hazuri Anwar Yadullah Ta'ala bin Asil Aziz. And each one of us, we have responsibility for our allocated regions. And we are the first point of contact within your region. So you need to know who your national secretary is. For example, I look after Baitul Ehsan, Baitul Noor, South and East region. SNMD Sahib looks after the remaining London and Outer London regions. And then Dr. Muhammad Ashraf Sahib in Birmingham, he is the National Secretary for Hertfordshire, Midland and Southwest. And all the northern regions are supported by Dr. Nasir Sahib. So first step is you need to contact these secretaries and make sure that you've been allocated to one of our team members. If at any stage you feel that you're not being supported by your facilitator, you always can reach back to us. And we are here to support you. We can, whenever people come back to me, we always look into these matters and try to make sure that they are supported. So that's the first thing. I think we need to help each other out. Yes, Rishta Nata offices are closed, but offices really are mostly for administrative purposes, right? For attestation of nikah forms, so on and so forth. The Rishta facilitation is purely through our facilitators who are normally not in the office. Okay, it's important to understand. So if you do not have a facilitator allocated to you for a one-to-one interaction, um, you should contact your relevant secretary immediately, and we would allocate somebody to you. If you're not getting a response, and COVID-19 situation, yes, it has created challenges for us because we don't have any online system at the moment. We are, we're working on one at the moment, and it would be made available as soon as ready and approved. But the serving of our Jamaat members in finding rishtas has not stopped, and that has continued. Yes, it has created issues in terms of onboarding new candidates because there haven't been any events where we meet up people, recruit them, or get them on our register. So yes, that side, the supply side has slowed down. But this is where my request to everyone is who is listening and is on this call, that Rishta Nata, team does their best to work with you on one-to-one basis. As I've explained, it's a set process where we try to help each and every one to the best of our ability. And you should register with Rishta Nata if you're not already. That would help us address that supply side. On proposal side, COVID-19 should not have had any impact, right? And if you feel that that is the case, please contact your national secretary, and I'm sure we would assist you. Then going back to the issue, what do we do to assess those who have been married and are looking to be married again? So Rishta Nata department is there for everyone. We make equal amount of effort for everyone, right? The only thing to bear in mind, we can, support you in two ways. One, by highlighting these issues, as I am doing today. My team and I, we've already done it at local Jamaat by, teaming up with Tarbiyat department twice earlier this week. And I, personally have made regular visits to Jamaats. So we do try to create awareness through those Jamaat visits, through various national events, so on and so forth. In terms of where we succeed or don't succeed in helping a particular individual, that's very much a case of two sides agreeing to a proposal. That's where I feel that we have a good success rate with certain types of candidates, and less so with other types. But that's like everywhere.
Dr. Kalim Sahib, I'm just very conscious of time that we have overstepped the mark slightly, but that's perfectly fine. And there have been obviously several comments and questions that have been posted by us, and we will have to bring it to a close, I'm afraid. So thank you for your questions. And Kalim Sahib, with your permission, I can forward those questions on to you for the department to respond to in a way that you feel is appropriate. And my thanks also, as always, to the viewers for their interaction, their participation, and just a humble reminder to make sure that your comments on these live chat forums are respectful and are directed to the relevant office holders through our normal channels. I just want to again thank Kalim Sahib for his preparation to deliver a wonderful lecture tonight, and also obviously the continued hard work that goes on behind the scenes that we are not always aware of or perhaps even appreciate. The Talim lectures return next Monday, when we will be joined by Shakil Ahmed Butt Sahib, who is the Naib Sadr for Majlis Ansarullah UK, who will be talking on the topic of obligations towards Tabligh and Khilafat Ahmadiyya. That lecture will be in Urdu. And then a week today, on Tuesday, we will have an English lecture by Dr. Aziz Ahmed Hafiz Sahib, Chairman of Humanity First UK. The title of his talk will be Faith and Altruism. So please make sure that you join us for both of those lectures next week at the same time of 7:30 p.m. If I could please hand over to our respected Secretary Talim, Nadim Rahman Sahib, for any final comments. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah, as usual. Just wanted to say Jazakallah to our viewers, and especially to Kalim Sahib for taking his valuable time and coming with us. And if I could end by humbly requesting him if he could lead us in silent prayer, please. Kalim Sahib.
I would also like to thank everyone once again for their participation. Jazakallah. And now, if everybody could kindly join me in silent prayer. Ameen.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.